In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Clone Commander Fox for the Black Series 6-inch line in his Phase 2 appearance. So if I recall correctly, this guy was an exclusive at the time, particularly a GameStop exclusive, EB Games, etc., a lot of those type of stores. But I actually got this guy on eBay. I got him from a guy in Hawaii, actually, and I only paid $35 at the time, and this was November of 2020, which was shortly after he was released. I think some people found him at retail at the time, but most people didn't. So to this day, Commander Fox is probably one of the more rare Clone Trooper action figures for the Black Series. I know the prices for him are generally astronomical. Sometimes I think prices even go up in the hundreds, if I recall seeing correctly. It's been a little bit since I've looked at his eBay prices, but I distinctively recall just seeing some of them and thinking, wow, that's completely outrageous for this guy. And even at the time, $35, the price I paid for him, that was a little bit above retail. But I knew that at that time, clones were generally very expensive in the Black Series, and most of the time their distribution was very low. So I figured, well, I'll take the risk. And Commander Fox is one of my personal favorite clones. And at this time, I didn't have too many clones in my Black Series collection. I may have had just like the Clone Captain and one or two others, and that was about it. And I think this was about the first real Clone Commander I got in my collection for the Black Series. So he was one I was not too upset about paying a little bit more for at the time. But overall, he's a pretty good action figure. He's not perfect. He could definitely use some improvements, mainly in the articulation department. But he's pretty good for what he is. What more can I say about it? Let's just go ahead and take a closer look at him then. If you've seen some of my other Clone Trooper videos before for the Black Series, and at this point we've gotten so many clones released since him, you probably have a good idea of everything that's entailed with this guy. So during this time in the Black Series, it seemed like Hasbro was completely ignoring Phase 1, and we were only getting Phase 2 interpretations of everyone. So I think he looks pretty intimidating. If I saw this guy out in public, I'd be like, ooh, don't want to mess with him. So I really do like his helmet design here. I think Hasbro did a nice job on it. The visor looks good. It just has just enough shadow over his over his helmet visor there. Of course, he got this guard around it. Looks nice. He has the floodlight there, antenna here. One thing Hasbro did do with this action figure is they really went all out with weathering on him. You can see he's got a lot of dirt splattered on him and mud, and which is interesting because most of the time Commander Fox was probably stationed on Coruscant, and you're probably not going to get this much or this type of weathering on your armor. And I imagine more often than not, Commander Fox stayed clean. So it's interesting they didn't give him a clean deco. This makes sense for a character like Commander Cody or Commander Bly even. And I think those two they ended up making clean. This one they didn't. And even he has a lot of scuffs on his armor there, which being on Coruscant, you think they would be very particular about having inspection ready uniforms at all times. Nice clean armor, no scrapes, no scuffs, anything like that. Since being stationed on Coruscant, I imagine appearance would be top priority. He has some nice white on him. The weathering on his helmet there. On his shoulder pads, or his shoulder armor, does have the Coruscant Guard logo, just on the one side. See, he has the mud splattered on the white. Same with his belt there. holsters attached to it. Just have all these pockets. There's a red along the thermal detonator canister. Has the soft goods comma here, which is okay. I don't think Hasbro has quite mastered the comma yet for the Black Series. It looks short in some ways, and to me, I think they could do a little bit better job. At least on the 3 3/4 figures, they were more filling, I guess, and they were more, much more defined, and it was much longer too. And for his legs here, just red for his thighs and his knees, and then white for the bottom there. So in terms of his articulation, he is an older articulated action figure. So he does have the ball joint at the head, and then hinge at the shoulders, which unfortunately he doesn't have much of a hinge there at all because the shoulder armor, Hasbro didn't make it to where it can flex over the torso there. So unfortunately that's really about as far as you're going to get. And then he also has the older elbows where, yes, they're double hinged, but they can only go about 90 degrees. He did not have the Captain Rex elbows, and this was during the time where some clones had it and some didn't, and allegedly that is because of wherever it was made in the factory. Some factories it was just standard to do the elbows in this style, and then other ones it was the Captain Rex style, and Hasbro claimed it was out of their control as to which factory got what. But he does have hinged wrists, joint the torso, hinge hips, and then the swivel thigh. Then the double hinge at the knee. He does have the pins there, but it's pretty well hidden. It's not that big of a deal. And then the rocker ankles, of course. In terms of weapons and accessories, he comes with all of essentials. The DC-15 long rifle, and they are uniquely painted. It does have a little bit of that carbonized look to it. Looks pretty good. Of course, he has a short rifle. I don't think this is his particular DC-15 rifle. It is painted in the same scheme as this. I'm actually not sure where it is. I just brought this out for showcasing exactly what he comes with. But he does come with the shorter DC-15 rifle. Then, of course, he does have the pistols here as well. I don't think I've ever had him displayed with the pistols in hand. I don't think he would hold them too well because particularly his left hand, he doesn't have a trigger finger or anything, so he can't really hold it too well. But they do fit well in his holster, and they stay in the place pretty good. At least he can hold his rifle well with both hands. And that looks really nice. And here he is with his 3 3/4 counterpart. Talked about this guy a little bit before in the Commander Fox review I did in his Phase 1 armor back during the Clone Wars line in 2008. We'll give this guy his own review eventually. He looks good, but he is severely limited in his articulation, especially compared to the Black Series figure here. But they look pretty good side by side. Obviously, this Commander Fox is supposed to be more of a realistic interpretation. I think during this time, Hasbro was still kind of shying away from doing the Clone Wars characters in animated styles. They seem to have gotten away from that in the last couple years. Even a lot of the TVC action figures that are based upon animated characters look more animated. They look pretty good. But other than that, it's pretty much all I can show you about with Commander Fox here. So would I recommend him for your collection? Yes and no. I wouldn't pay an outrageous price for him. There's really nothing new in the action figure department that this guy can offer. If you have one clone, you pretty much have them all at this point. The tooling's basically the same as all the other clones at this time. If you're a big fan of Commander Fox, I would just say shop around for a good price for him. But if you only want one Fox for your collection, probably the best one to get is the Phase 1 Clone Wars Fox. That price is pretty reasonable. You can usually find them for about $20 or less, brand new even. And I think a lot of people usually recognize Fox in his Phase 1 armor anyway, because that's what he debuted with. Hot Toys also did release a Phase 1 Fox recently, so if you're going to bother paying a ridiculous price for an action figure, particularly of Commander Fox, I would say instead of spending like $100 for the Black Series one, you might as well go all out and get the Hot Toys version of him, so you can get the best of the best. But if price is no concern for you, then yes, he's a very nice action figure. He's one of my personal favorite clones I have for the Black Series. And he ended up being one of the very first ones I got. He was probably the third or fourth clone I got overall. I would have to go back and check again. But I'm happy he's a part of my collection. He looks good. He's very intimidating in his appearance. I think Hasbro did a nice job, particularly in the helmet. Even though he doesn't have clean armor, the weathering does look pretty decent on him. Not too often Hasbro goes all out like that for weathering the clones. Most of the time they're very plain looking, like this guy. But overall, very happy with him. He's a nice action figure. Great way to round out your clone Black Series collection. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There'll always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.